Okay. So with respect to the lighting of the Menorah, with respect to the mitzvah of lighting the Menorah to commemorate Chanukah, there are three levels, which is unique to Chanukah. That the mitzvah can be observed on three levels. All other mitzvahs are observed on two levels, basically. Namely, there's the minimum requirement, where there's tefillin, mezuzah, your tzitzis, whatever, your lulav, any of the commandments. And then there is many things a person can add to enhance it. Two levels. That's called mahadrin. But on Chanukah we have a third level. Mahadrin, mina mahadrin, which means enhanced of the enhanced. What are the three levels? The basic level which the sages enacted, that a Jew is obligated to do on Chanukah, to fulfill the obligation of lighting the Menorah, is to light one candle each night per family. Nothing more and nothing less. One candle each light. If somebody wants to do beyond the mandate, mahadrin, then it's one candle per adult member. Again, only one every night. Nothing more, nothing less. When it comes to the third level, at the top of your page is the famous argument between, top of the page there in the little kind of Beis Shammai says Yom Rishon, the first night, Madlik Shmoina, you light 8, Mikan ve'elech, and from then onwards Peiches ve'elech, one decreases, so that the last night one candle is lit. Beis Hillel say Yom Rishon, the first night, opposite, Madlik Achas, you start with 1, Mikan ve'elech Moishe ve'elech, and then you add, so that the final night you have 8. So this is the dispute between the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel. If somebody wants to observe level number 3, not obligatory, but should he want to, obligatory is level 1. So how does he observe level 3? So Beis Shammai says you start with 8 and you go down to 1, and Hillel says you start with 1 and you add each night. 1 decreases, 1 increases. What's the basic difference between the views? What's the reasoning between these? The reasoning of these respective views? The reasoning is, what are we counting? According to Shammai, we're counting the days to come. So the first night is 8 days to come. The second night is 7 nights to come. The third night is 6. According to Hillel, we're not counting the days which come. We count the days which passed, or which we are in. The first night you have 1, you light 2. The second night you now have 2 days, you light 2, and so on. So that is the basic reasoning between the two. Now, look on your page, on the first paragraph after the introduction, it says, Bebir Hashem Chanukah, in explaining the name Chanukah, Isa beposkim, it is brought down in the codifiers, Sheyesh by remez v'nutrikun, that the name Chanukah, aside from its basic translation and its basic meaning, it also has an allusion. And the allusion is hinted to in the 5 letters of the word Chanukah. What's the allusion? You've got to see it in the text there, because they bold for you the first letter of these 5 words, so you can see that the word Chanukah is spelled there. What are the 5 words? Ches, 8, Neiros, flames, V'halacha, and the ruling, Kebeis, Hillel. It's like Hillel. So the word Chanukah alludes to the fact that in the third level of observance, the ruling is like Hillel, and that's the ruling, as you know. You all light your menorah according to the house of Hillel. You're not even aware, many of you, that there is an opinion like the house of Shammai. Now, our question is, the school of Shammai and Hillel argue on scores of issues. Mitzvahs, in other words. How is the mitzvah to be observed? And yet, in none of them, anywhere in the entire Talmud, is the mitzvah, and the ruling is, for the most part, like Hillel, in almost all cases, with a few exceptions. And yet, in those discussions, we don't find that the mitzvah hints to the fact that the ruling is like Hillel. The mitzvah is an independent name, and the sages discuss how it's to be observed, as to be expected. So the question is extremely strange, and what's the reason for this? That when the only issue of the scores that they debate, the only issue where the final ruling which it always is anyway almost, like Hillel is hinted in the mitzvah, is Chanukah. Why? What must it mean? It must mean perforce, therefore, that of all of the mitzvahs they debate, Chanukah is a Hillelean mitzvah. The whole concept or theme, the whole celebration of Chanukah points to the Hillel view, whereas the other ones not so much. All the other issues they debate. This one does. And that's what we have to understand why. Questions clear? So maybe somebody wants to repeat our question. Eddie.
Why are all the mitzvahs? This mitzvah is clearly stated in the name of the holiday.
In the name of
the
Hillel.
In the name of the holiday indicates that it's a Hillel mitzvah as opposed to any other
issues that they debate.
There's no
the mitzvah. It's called Shabbos. Whatever they're arguing a Shema. Lots of things we'll see.
Here it seems that the name is clearly pointed out.
Yeah. So it must mean, therefore, the conclusion must be that there's something about what
Hillel's interpretation
about Chanukah. There's something about Chanukah that reflects Hillel so powerfully that it's hinted in the very name. Whereas the other mitzvahs, not so. It could be this way or that way. They're both equally valid. Chanukah itself lends towards no, it's the Hillel position. And our question is why. So if you turn the page, that was the quote I wanted you to see there.
Can I just ask you a real quick question?
Yeah.
The word Chanukah is from there? Is that where's the word?
I said Chanukah, besides its basic meaning, this is an illusion of an illusion.
But the word Chanukah, that
what does that mean?
Where is that from? Like Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashanah.
Chanukah is in the Talmud. They called it Chanukah because the word Chanukah means chinuch, to dedicate. They rededicated the temple.
Yeah.
To dedicate. It also means education. Education is to dedicate a child on a certain path. Chinuch, Chanukah, that's what it means. It means basically to dedicate. It also has another allusion. I said this yesterday. Chanukah breaks up into two words. Chanukah. Chanu means they rested. From what? From the battle with the Greeks. Ka is Chafei 25, on day 25 of the month, which is when Chanukah begins. So that's an illusion that the 25th of Kislev is the day when we celebrate this holiday. Chanu, they rested, Ka, on the 25th. That's an illusion. And this is an illusion of an illusion of an illusion that it hints to Hillel. But the basic meaning is, as I said, chinuch, to dedicate. They rededicated the temple that had been defiled by the Greeks. Rededicating it as the house of God. Cleansed it and so on.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How long after, let's say, that miracle happened between the Maccabee and the Greeks, how long after was it decided that we're going to celebrate this as our holiday?
The next year.
The
Good
next
question.
year.
The Talmud says the next year.
Okay.
The very next year. Yeah. Okay, so now, what did we say till now about explaining the views, the respective views of Shammai and Hillel when it comes to lighting the menorah? Shammai is of the view that what? We count.
Backwards.
So, backwards?
8 to 1.
No, that's not the question. We're asking why he says that. We know that's what he says. We explained why. Because he says, what are we looking at?
Attention.
The days, so far I haven't mentioned that word. The days that are yet to come. And Hillel says we count the days that have passed. Right. So now exploring that, pardon?
Not really past, that's we're in.
And also,
Because otherwise we light the first candle at the end of the first day.
well,
We
the
say
second
what day
night, you're counting also the first one. You're adding. So you're counting the day you're in and the days that passed. The days that are actualized, period. In and past. Keep on, right? The third night, it's only the third night, but we're counting 3 candles.
Look at the first
Because we
one.
also have 2.
But look at the first one.
We're in it.
We're
This
in it,
is a
but it's
reality.
But it's not past.
That's what I said, reality. Well, the first moments of it actually have passed already.
First
So
moments,
there's already a passing.
Right.
So
We're actually entering.
this
those
time
days.
doesn't say still. Either it's ahead of you or it's behind you every second. Shammai says we're looking ahead, and it says we're looking behind. The moment you can't cease, you can't stop it. So already in the first night of Chanukah, we've already ticked. Already the clock is ticked. We've already got the first day. Not completely. That's irrelevant completely. We're in the first day and it's passing. But to go a little bit deeper, If you just look at I want you to find the bold words on page 138. It's in the first two paragraphs. There's two words that are bold. Find Waldo.
Koyach and Poyel.
Bekoyach and bepoyel. So there's a famous insight from Rabbi Yosef Engel, the author of the Beis HaOitzer, who explains that the root of the Shammai view and the root of the Hillel view is rooted in a deeper, if you like, existential argument. And the argument goes deeper than we're simply counting days that will come or days that have elapsed or are elapsing. It goes deeper than that. The argument in general is, and as I mentioned before, they argue in many areas, scores of issues in the Talmud. At the foundation of all of these arguments are these two different, if you like, worldviews, or rephrase that, two different views on what is our purpose here. What's the purpose of the mitzvahs? What's the intent? In the words of this famous work, the Beis HaOitzer by Rabbi Yosef Engel, Shammai looks at all things and sees the purpose in appreciating and connecting to the potential, the source of all things. Hillel says our focus ought to be not on the potential and the source, but on the actualization of whatever potential, whatever the issue may be. What is the primary component? The embryonic potential, that's the essence because it starts there, or that's only a potential, it may not manifest. Something is considered real in our world once it actualizes. Shammai is of the view that it's the potential, that is the primary component, because it's the origin, the embryonic seed, if you like, and that is the focus, as we'll demonstrate in a moment. And Hillel says, no, the focus is not the potential, but the focus needs to be on the realization, the actualization, the tangible, the consequence. Not the cause, but the effect. Another way of phrasing it. Is the cause the primary component of any reality, or is it the effect? Obviously you need both, but the question is which one is the one that we are concerned with, and which one is the objective in any endeavor. So let's explain. Applying that to the case at hand. On the first night of Chanukah, in potential, there's 8 days. That potential diminishes as time goes on. So therefore, Shammai, in celebration of the potential of Chanukah, not the actualization, says in the first night, you light 8 candles. The second night that diminishes because the potential is now less. It's only 7 days in potential. It's like potential time versus actual time. Hillel says, we only celebrate what we're actually in. So tonight's the first night. It started, we're in it, a candle. The next night, now we have 2, another one, and so on. So it's more than just looking ahead or looking what's past, it's potential versus actual. Now the same argument is in many others areas of Jewish law. Question?
I just realized, Hillel lived in what year?
Well, they lived at the same time, after the story of Chanukah.
But you said they celebrated the next year. How'd they celebrate too?
Oh, yeah. So that's a good question. That's a very good question. Answer is, some people did like this and some did like that. And Hillel and Shammai later expressed favored one view or the other.
So how long after that would have been?
Hillel and Shammai, I don't have to look it up exactly, but it's some hundreds of years later.
Okay.
Because you would think.
I mean, that question applies to everything. There are Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin and Rashi's tefillin.
Because you said I realized, but you said they celebrated right away.
Yeah, and which way? All 3. All 4, actually.
I would think that people would say it's you're celebrating the miracle from the Menorah, I would think, like, if you just think logically.
Wait, let's finish the discussion here. Until we get to the
Okay,
end,
yeah.
hold your opinion. Let's
Yeah.
learn. Then I'll ask. We'll go take a census. Which one do you like? But let's learn what they say. Okay. Now, another example of their argument. If you'll turn your page, the last page. Just go to the last page. Can you do that? The last page. No, that's not the last page. The last page is, you have 2 pages, friends, and turn to the last one.
This is 38, 39,
No.
40, 41.
Like, if you start like this, and what's the last page? That's the last page.
Totally other. It's 136 to 198.
Listen,
Different page number.
no, we're going to the last
We have to,
page.
guys, it's getting late. We need to
The
move.
page number.
196.
96.
Yeah. So here is another area of their argument. Look at Bays. Chalos dvash, combs, honeycombs. Me'emesai mitamois mishum mashke. At which point is the honey that's within them, will they have the potential? Okay, so there's a long explanation here a little bit in the laws of purity and impurity. In order for an object, we're talking about growth now, in order for anything that grows on the ground, once severed, in order for it to become capable of contracting ritual impurity, and there's many things that will make it impure, the result of that would be a kohen can't eat it, for example, as truma, many other ramifications. But the point is that whatever grows in the ground needs 2 conditions. It has to be severed and be made wet at least once by any one of 7 liquids, one of which is honey. Now the question is, at which point is honey considered a liquid? That's the question at hand. That if it would touch a plant or food, then that food becomes now susceptible to becoming ritually impure. So here's the interesting argument. So you have chalis dvash beis on page 196. You have these honeycombs. Me'emesai mitamis mishum mashke. At which point do we consider it a liquid? That's the question. Beis Shammai, in the school of Shammai, say mishiyahare. Now there's 2 views on what he actually said. One is when the owner of the honeycombs already thinks to remove the honey, as long as the honey's in the honeycomb, it's not considered a liquid yet. But when he has in mind, I'm going to scrape it off, then already it has the category of liquid. Or a second view is mishiyacharcher, when he smokes. What they do is they would smoke the bees out and get the honey. So he hasn't actually, whether this is 2 views within Shammai. What both agree with, he hasn't actually removed it. He's only planned to, in his thought, or he's done the first step of removing the bees. The honey is still in the honeycomb. Yet, Shammai considers that already to be liquid. And Beis Hillel says, you might guess, it's considered liquid once it's removed from the honeycomb, and now it's a liquid. It's the same argument again. Shammai is saying, since I've already decided to, or I have the second view within Shammai, I have smoked the bees away, it's the process has begun already, the potential is there for it to be actually liquid and put in the bottle, so you consider it liquid already now. Not so Hillel. When is it considered liquid? Only when he actually removes it from the honeycomb. Till then, it's considered the honeycomb, as solid, as part of the honeycomb. Even though the solid has liquid in it, but it's not considered liquid by Shammai or Hillel until something happens, either the potential or the actual. That's another example consistent with their 2 views. A third example on the next page, 197 across the page. Gimel. This is the very first mission of the Talmud. When's the obligation, when does it begin to read the Shema in the evening? The answer is at nightfall. But the question is, when's the deadline? When is it too late to read the Shema? The Torah says it should be read when you lie down. But when is that? So there's 3 opinions. The first opinion is Ad soif ha'ashmura harishona. The night is divided into watches, times. At the end of the first watch, which is a quarter of the night, a third of the night, so that's the deadline. And that's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. We'll skip the middle view because it'll distract us. Rambam Gamliel says, Ad sheyalem ad hashachar, you have till dawn. What's the debate here? Now, Rabbi Eliezer is a disciple of Shammai. The debate here is the same thing. The Torah says when you lie down, is it when you're engaged in lying down or actually lying down? If it's when you're engaged in lying down, the potential for sleep, well, there's people go to sleep for the first part of the night, and then they're already sleeping. Done. So the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer's Shammai view is the potential. Therefore, the cutoff point for reading when the Torah says when you lie down, what does it mean when you lie down? Not when you actually lie down. When you're engaged in lying down. Not so the opinion of the sages, which is the Hillel position. No, it's the actual. People are lying down till dawn. That's when they get up. So therefore, you may read the Shema till dawn. The fact is, the sages say don't wait till dawn, because a person will think he's going to lie down, he'll get up, and he'll say the Shema before dawn. He'll sleep through and end up transgressing and not reading the evening Shema. So they counseled midnight. Midnight's your deadline. But in principle, they agree that the law is midnight, just as a safeguard. But in principle, it's the Hillel position that it's the actualization, and that is till as long as people are actually horizontally sleeping, wherever they sleep. And for Shammai, it's not when you're actually sleeping. It's when sleep is beginning, and it's in its potential stage. And there are scores of other arguments throughout the entire Talmud. Thinking deeply into these two positions, we see again it's consistent. Hillel is actual and Shammai is potential. Now, what's really the root of this argument, going deeper even in this actual and potential argument, which I started off saying, really they're debating the whole purpose of why we're here and what's the purpose of mitzvahs. We all know that Hillel embodies chesed and Shammai gevura. We don't have time now to illustrate their stories in their life, but they're very famous. Kindness and so on. And Shammai, that's Hillel, and Shammai is strictness, gevura. Hillel is water and Shammai is fire. So what is their argument? Their argument is, what is the purpose of mitzvahs? We sent down to this world to do what? Shammai says to transcend it. That's the logical position. To transcend it and to connect to the source. Because, well, let's make this clear. We speak about source or potential and actual. What's the source of all things? God. He's the source of everything. So in broader terms, the potential, the source is God. The actual is what he did, this world. So what's the objective? So Shammai says, why are we here? The objective is we live in this hard, actualized, finite world. The job is, the mission is of all mitzvahs is to transcend and to connect to the divine source, to elevate ourselves to heaven, to live spiritual lives, lives that are connected to the source and where it all comes. So for Shammai, we might say that the quintessential Jewish moment is Yom Kippur, and many would agree. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. We're fasting, we're transcending, we're the most angel-like possible, certainly, and the climactic moment of the Shema Yisrael. That's the Jewish moment. That's the symbol of all life. He would argue that we should live austere lives. Of course, you have to be healthy, and you have to have all the basic needs of life, but the focus has to be the soul and transcendence, prayer and study whenever possible. You got a spare moment, you learn, you pray, you meditate, say Tehillim. You're nurturing and developing your soul. That's the point. That's the Shammai view. That's like fire which ascends. The movement is upwards. The Hillel view is the opposite. No. The purpose is not the ascent to heaven, but to bring heaven down to the physical world. To engage in the world, in physical pursuits, but to do so in a godly way. So what's the quintessential moment, symbolic moment for Hillel? Would be a Shabbos meal. Or maybe even Purim. Actually, Purim would be a bit, because Purim and Yom Kippur have so much underlying, but they're opposites. Purim is giving gifts of food and drink. It's a very physical celebration, and the Yom Kippur is the most spiritual celebration. So they're good examples, yet they they have a lot in common, as we've learned on other occasions. Yom Kippurim means a day like Purim. The word Purim is actually hinted in the word Yom Kippurim. So it's a perfect example. They're very similar, but they could not be more divergent, and that's the Shammai and Hillel view. What's the quintessential Jewish moment? A wedding, Purim, Shabbos? Or is it Yom Kippur? Is it when the Jew is praying in his tallis and film? Or within Shabbos itself? Within Shabbos itself, is it the meal of Shabbos? Is it your Shabbos prayer? Is it the transcendent moment of Shabbos? Or is it the engaging moment of Shabbos? Where's the essence? You need both, but what's the emphasis? In your spare time, which one would you emphasize? And what's your whole direction in life? If you have more time, make another dollar. Or if you have extra time, you made enough to live, run to shul. Or go and do a mitzvah. That's what Shammai would say. Hillel would say, not necessarily. Make another dollar and give to tzedakah. Use that to engage the world in a more impactful, physically impactful way. Which way are we going? Shammai says we're going this way. Hillel says we're going that way.
Aren't we doing both?
The question is, I just mentioned, if you're given a choice of which one, what's the emphasis? And on Shabbos itself, what are you emphasizing? Where will you spend more time with your Shabbos meal or in prayer and learning? It's a critical question.
I thought we were doing both.
But which one is the emphasis?
We're,
Which one's the emphasis?
There's
Spare
one-
time,
there's one
as it were.
precedence.
Huh?
Yeah, which one?
Which one takes precedent? If you could do either, which one will you do? As I just said, you could work more in business, put in another hour, make another deal, and make more money, or not. Hillel says yes, because with this, provided you're doing what you're supposed to do, with this, you can impact physically the world much. And someone says no. With that time, go to shul and learn. Pray, say Tillim. Open up a book and study.
but aren't we doing both?
You keep on asking, I can't answer better than that.
We're bringing down. No,
We are doing better, but the
praying,
question
we're
is,
bringing down.
but the question is, I just gave you a question. You have a chance to do one or the other. You cannot do both now.
Okay.
So that's
now
the question.
Hear me.
Which one will you do?
Hear me.
Yes.
By praying and by observing all the laws, we're bringing heaven down to earth. Where the neshama is going up.
Actually,
You
it's not
kept saying our
rephrased.
neshama is being elevated.
No, when you're praying, that's transcendent. You're not engaging the world. It's tzedakah, food, giving, those kinds of actions. So again, the question is when, of course we do both. But the critical question is what's the emphasis, what takes precedence? When you could do one or the other, which one would you do? A very critical question. What kind of house should you have? All the things that you own. Shammai would say it's bare minimum. There's nothing in the house that should be beyond, it's a very minimalistic, austere life. And Hillel says, make a beautiful home because it'll be attractive for people to come and enjoy your place and you'll be able to outreach better. So that's the question. Very different views and consequences. Yeah?
Isn't that Christianity? One of them is Christianity.
Well, to its extreme, but Shammai is not.
No, I'm not saying but I'm saying to the extreme.
That's
point.
the extreme view. Indeed. Yeah. That would be the extreme position. But
Christianity comes from Judaism.
that's right. Yeah. So let's take it its extreme view. Now we have to just quickly end now. There's so much more to be said. We're just going to wrap it up. So it comes out that when it comes to Chanukah, what's the original question? No, what was our question? What was our question?
The question was, do we light 8?
No, we answered that. There's a Shammai and there's Hillel. There's two views here. And the ruling is like Hillel. We have no question about that. The question, we're sitting at this table now to figure out what? Why does Chanukah
It's so Hillelian.
is so Hillelian? That's the question. And the answer is because Chanukah, of all the 620 commandments that we observe, 613 plus the 7 rabbinic, which is one of the rabbinic ones, this one, by its whole construct, is a Hillel position. Why? Number one, how do you light the menorah? It has to be lit where? When it's dark, facing the street. Which way are we going? We're not going inwards, upwards. It's not transcendent. It's all about engaging the world, all about bringing it down. That's how the sages enacted it to begin with. So it really is a Hillel movement, which is why we light even on government property and so on. We want to bring it to the darkest and most secular dimensions of creation. Bring down, not transcend it. Not inviting people into the shul to experience prayer. We're bringing it down to the world. Number one. Secondly, the way it was enacted, it's the only one of all of the commandments that we have, the Yomim Tovim at least, that was created by the sages. It's not coming from above, which is, again, the source, the Shammai view, looking up. Shabbos, Yom Tov, etc., is mandated in Torah. Even Purim, which is post-biblical, was mandated by prophets, again above. Who creates Chanukah? It's the people below. The emphasis is in our role, our contribution. Shammai says we have to be fire, surrender ourselves to God, a sacrifice. And Hillel says imbue, not surrender, opposite. Sacrifice or suffuse or imbue. Again, looking at Chanukah, it's all about imbuing and not the idea of surrender. Number one, two things I just said. The way we observe it out there, and it comes from the people. It's not just surrendering to what does God say, the prophet says. It's the sage who got together, discussed it, and created it. It's all the emphasis on the below. And the final thing is, that explains also why only Chanukah has these three levels altogether. Because all other mitzvahs have the basic mandate, and you can also add. Here, not just can you add if you want, you can add even on another level. That's again the focus on man. Hillel, Shammai says the focus is man surrendered to God. And Hillel says no, the focus is God suffusing man's life. So in the observance of Chanukah, the emphasis in the way we observe the mitzvah is on our contribution, more than any other. So it's a Hillelian mitzvah more than any other, and that explains the mystery of why Chanukah alludes to, nothing else does, but Chanukah in all of the debates, Chanukah alludes to Ches Neiris V'Halacha K'Beis Hillel, because the whole construct of Chanukah, and the whole story, and the way it's observed is very much a Hillel, which means downward but not upward movement.
And the manner of lighting one at a time, how does that tie into your explanation?
Actual. The actual, our physical world, we're imbuing we're not surrendering the world to the potential. We're imbuing it. 1 day lighting up, 2 days that we have lighting up. What we have actualized, we have to illuminate. And Shammai is saying the lighting of the candles on the contrary, the fire is just surrendering all of the days to God. But the end of the end of the Chanukah, there's only one light because we've burnt up, we've surrendered all of time and the physicality to the divine. You're left with nothing almost. And Hillel, everything, it's full. It's the opposite. We're looking at how we have sanctified the world. And for Shammai, it's how we have surrendered the world. Now, final commentary is that both are true. In terms of time and the observance, nowadays, before Mashiach comes, it's the Hillel position. When Mashiach comes, once the world has been suffused with the divine, then we're ready to offer it. Then we're ready to surrender it. And that's the Shammai view. So it's a very lofty view, but comes at the end after the Hillel development. First we develop the world in a godly way, and then, like the sacrifice, it's offered and surrendered to God. That's the Shammai view. And the reason that Shammai view comes later is because it has to come later. It's a very elevated view, only for someone who has already... It's for some of whom the world is already not an obstacle. It's being suffused. It's done. Now it's offered. But there's work to be done on the practical level to bring godliness to a dark world. That's the Hillel view. So both are necessary, stage 1, stage 2. Yeah?
Is that only for the Hanukkah positions or for all the positions between the two?
Yes, it is. Yeah, in all of them, there's 2 ways to do all of the mitzvahs. Subtly. It becomes more subtle. Is it surrender or is it engage? But where it's really clear, it's in Chanukah, which is why it's alluded to in Chanukah. And that Chanukah is a Hillel thing. All right, folks.